Today we're taking a look at an iPhone 5 that should be running its original software version, iOS 6. I found this on eBay for an absolute steal. It was only $26.50 plus shipping. So let's go ahead and get it opened up. And here we have the device. This is in the white and silver color. At first glance, the display looks to be in fantastic condition. I do see some slight wear near the lightning connector here, but other than that, the device is looking really flawless. Let's see if this device has any battery power. And it looks like it does, and that is awesome. We are met with the iOS 6 Apple logo. This logo with the reflection mark across it was only used through iOS 6, as it was replaced with the flat style Apple logo in iOS 7. Okay, perfect. Well, we boot directly into the iOS 6 slide to unlock screen. So we will do that now. Let's head into settings so we can see which version of iOS 6 we have. And it looks like we have 6.1.4 here. That was actually the last revision of iOS 6 for this iPhone 5. We can also see that this is a Verizon model and it is the base 16GB storage configuration. So although this device did not come with its original box, I still wanted to show off the accessories that would have been included. You had a quick start guide that would show you some basic functions of the iPhone as well as iOS 6. You also had some warranty and regulatory info, as well as 2 Apple stickers. And this was also from an era where Apple really took care of us in the accessories department. You had your Lightning to USB cable to charge the device, a small 5-watt power adapter, as well as the wired earpods with remote and mic. These headphones actually launched with the iPhone 5 and they replaced the older style Apple earbuds that were really notoriously bad. And these were so much more comfortable in the ear compared to headphones that came with previous iPhones. This iPhone 5 was released in September 2012 as the successor to the 2011 iPhone 4S. And as you can see, it brought some pretty noticeable upgrades. First off, we had this all-new design with aluminum and glass. The prior iPhone 4 and 4S were using stainless steel and glass. And the new design made the iPhone 5 18% thinner. It was also 20% lighter than the iPhone 4S, coming in at only 112 grams. And this model, along with the following year's 5S, would go down in history as being the lightest iPhone ever made. And the design of this iPhone really was beautiful. It had these glass inserts on the top and bottom of the back panel, so that made for a really cool two-tone look. And it was a really nice mix of finishes with the shiny glass as well as iPhone text and Apple logo, contrasting with the matte finish aluminum. And on the sides of the device, there was a really cool finish that Apple called a diamond chamfered edge. So this iPhone had a pretty much undisputed gorgeous design. And it brought the first increase to the iPhone display size ever. It now measured 4 inches diagonally with a resolution of 1136 by 640. That was the same display width of the iPhone 4S, it was just made taller on the 5. And although it was just a half-inch increase, it really made a big difference. There was now 6 rows of icons on the home screen instead of 5. And especially when doing things like having the keyboard open, you just had so much more usable space on the 5. And the device was still really easy to use one-handed. That was a huge design point for the iPhone that Steve Jobs had put into place with the original model. Also, the iPhone 5 brought the new Lightning connector. This replaced the really aged 30-pin connector from the iPhone 4S and previous models. The Lightning connector itself was 80% smaller than the 30-pin. And even more importantly, it was now reversible. With the 30-pin cable, you would always have to make sure that this little icon was lined up to the front of your device. So it was really nice to have the new Lightning connector on the iPhone 5. And it freed up space on the bottom of the device for larger speaker and microphone cutouts, as well as relocating the headphone jack to the bottom of the device in a more convenient location. Also new for the iPhone 5 was the addition of 4G LTE cellular. So that was a huge upgrade over 3G that was used in the iPhone since 2008. As expected, this iPhone also got a new processor. So that was the A6 chip, quoted to be around 2 times faster in CPU and graphics compared to the A5. This iPhone was from an era where Apple was making really huge year-over-year improvements to their chips. And the 5 now included a full 1GB of RAM compared to the 512 megabytes of the 4S. So performance on this model was just fantastic, especially paired to the really light software iOS 6. The rear-facing camera was still 8 megapixels like the 4S, but it now featured a sapphire lens as well as improved optics. There was also an improved ISP in the A6 chip that allowed for better low-light performance and 40% faster capture. And there was now a new panorama feature. So we'll try that panorama feature out now. And yeah, this one didn't come out too great, but in ideal situations, they could definitely look really cool. The front-facing camera for the iPhone 5 got the real improvement though. So it was now marketed as a FaceTime HD camera with a 1.2 megapixel sensor. And that was just a night and day difference compared to the iPhone 4 and 4S, which had a 0.3 megapixel camera capable of only VGA quality. And one random point about the iPhone 5 design that I've always noticed is that the home button actually has a 3D effect. So you may notice the square here kind of has a silver look with some depth to it. I know that's a really minute detail, but I've always noticed that about the iPhone 5 compared to previous iPhone home buttons. You could get your iPhone 5 here in the white and silver or the black and slate color. The slate color had a really unique look. It was almost like navy blue in certain lightings, but it would only last for 1 year as it really did not wear too well. And these were sold with either 16, 32, or 64 gigabytes of storage. They launched at a price of $649, but that was often advertised as being $199 with a 2-year carrier contract. And the iPhone 5 was sadly only on sale for 1 year, being replaced with the iPhone 5C in 2013. That model kept almost all of the internals of the iPhone 5, just placing them in this plastic shell. However, the really beautiful design from the iPhone 5 would go on to be used in the iPhone 5S. And it was also used one final time with the 2016 iPhone SE. So now let's take a second to talk about iOS 6 on this device specifically. And this version is most known for being the last skeuomorphic designed version of iOS. And just in case you weren't aware, skeuomorphism is when the digital elements of a UI mimic real-life objects. So for example, this notification center here has a linen style background. Also, the voice memos application mimics a real-life microphone. The notes application mimics a real notepad. And the Game Center application kind of mimics a pool table. And all of those design cues were still really similar to what launched with the original iPhone. So iOS 6 here was just really nostalgic because it was the last of an era. Apple made a huge shift in their software design philosophy the following year with iOS 7. As you can see, these two just have a totally different look. iOS 7 has a much more flat and modern design with translucency. So the iPhone 5 has always been in a really unique place where the physical design feels very modern, but the original software design feels like something more from the past. And that makes this one of the most sought after collectible iPhones. iOS 6 itself was quoted to have over 200 new features compared to iOS 5, but it really didn't feel like much of a change from that version at all. The Google Maps application was no longer included by default. Instead, this was Apple's new in-house designed maps. But it had a really controversial launch. The imagery would be really poor and the turn-by-turn navigation would often get users lost. Thankfully, Apple fixed a lot of those issues pretty quickly and they did issue a public apology for its downfalls. iOS 6 also dropped the built-in YouTube application, so you would now need a separate one. There was a new Passbook application in this version. This would later evolve into Wallet. You could now make FaceTime calls over cellular, and there was also a new Do Not Disturb feature. This was the second iPhone to feature the Siri voice assistant. And for iOS 6, it gained some new functionality like being able to tell you sports, restaurant, and movie information. So we'll try that out now. Show me MLB scores.
Here are the results from the MLB yesterday.
And there we go. It's pretty cool that Siri still works here on iOS 6. Sadly, the same cannot be said for the App Store, so you will get this error anytime you try to open it. But I was able to get some applications on this iPhone without jailbreaking it by using an older version of iTunes. So a lot of these are really fun to take a look at. It's pretty crazy, but you used to have to get a separate application to use a flashlight on your iPhone, as we did not have the control center that would integrate that with iOS 7. It's also really neat to take a look at these older social media apps. These will no longer allow you to sign in, but I just think looking at the icons and the opening screens are pretty cool. So here's the old Snapchat application, and I also have Twitter here. And of course, we've got some classic old games like Temple Run. I also have Paper Toss here. This one's interesting because it was not optimized for the 4-inch display of the iPhone 5 yet. So you would see these black bars on the top and bottom. And I also got some music synced to this device, so I love using the old music application. And I think one of the best things about this is using cover flow. It was really fun to swipe through your albums like this. We'll also take a look at the default wallpapers here for iOS 6. So you'll find 23 here to choose from. The blue ripple here was the default, of course, but we also find the raindrop default from iOS 4 and 5. We did sadly see the globe image from the original iPhone dropped from this wallpaper selection. I think since the fall season is just around the corner, I'm going to set this orange leaf wallpaper for this iPhone. And there we go, that's looking really nice. So that pretty much concludes my look at this iPhone 5 running its original iOS 6.1.4 version. This model is really special to me because I remember wanting one of these so badly back when they were new. At the time, I was using a white iPhone 3GS, so the iPhone 5 just felt like a monumental leap. And it really does feel like the last Steve Jobs era iPhone. So leave me a comment below with your thoughts or memories on this iPhone 5 with iOS 6. And be sure to get subscribed for more iOS devices running their original versions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.